Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. Humans have evolved over millennia through natural selection to conserve energy not essential to survival. The humans that could do this had a greater chance to survive and reproduce. During harsh winters, Paleolithic humans conserved energy by limiting the effort spent moving around looking for food. It was a smarter investment to conserve energy and ride out the harsh winter. This same attitude, essential to our survival historically, is actually desirable. Humans should always be seeking to conserve energy and spend it on activities that promote survival of our species. This form of active laziness is good, and it's something to strive for. Unfortunately, the innate desire to conserve energy has led to a more toxic form of laziness in today's abundant world, the sin of sloth. Sloth is a behavioural pattern that manifests as laziness and idleness. It's the disinclination to exert effort or displaying indifference to one's duties. The sin of sloth isn't about conserving energy, it's about consistently not expending effort to fulfil your duties and responsibilities. Sloth is becoming increasingly common in the world today due to the abundance of technology that reduces the need for human exertion. The devices that work for us mean that the need to expend effort to survive has been marginalised. These inventions were supposed to free us up to be able to work harder or more efficiently on other endeavours, but instead we have filled the free time with nothing productive. It's the biggest problem with our culture. When no real challenges face us, physical and mental lethargy sets in. Slothful tendencies such as daydreaming, gossip, procrastination, excessive sleeping, and lack of ambition are more prominent now than ever before. This mostly comes about because we live with an abundance of distractions such as social media, streaming websites, porn, and video games. Be on the lookout for your desire to remain in a state of comfort because the tendency to sloth will grow if you let it. Most people don't need to be told that being a sloth is bad, but I'm here to tell you that it's one of the most destructive habits that you can form. Sloth causes problems for yourself, which will cause you more suffering than the fleeting immediate pleasure that being a sloth brings you. The suffering may not immediately follow, it may not even closely follow, but you will cause problems for yourself eventually. Here are the various ways in which sloth causes you problems if you allow this tendency to manifest. Problem number 1. Sloth causes you to shirk your responsibilities. Most immediately, becoming lazy means that you don't tackle your fundamental responsibility to take care of yourself. This includes the basic adult responsibilities such as consuming adequate nutrition and water, as well as good bathing and hygiene habits. The sloth that neglects these basic responsibilities eventually causes a tab to build up. Eventually the Pied Piper will need to be paid, and when the bill comes due, it'll be proportional to the magnitude and the duration of the neglect. People who don't take care of their smaller responsibilities will eventually evolve their habit into one that causes them to neglect their larger responsibilities. I covered off why this causes issues in episode 88. Essentially, having a lazy attitude to your responsibilities will eventually cause the responsibilities to transform into problems. If enough of these problems build up, you hit a snag where you have too many problems that require solving simultaneously. This creates chaos in the moment, and it may also mean that some of your problems don't get resolved when they should, which will cause you endless suffering. Problem number 2. Sloth causes you to underdevelop your critical thinking skills. Increasingly, people are seeking comfort in intellectual laziness. More often than not, people are outsourcing their critical thinking skills to the internet. With any piece of information just a Google search away, many people outsource their philosophical questions without doing any critical thinking of their own. Discovering answers to questions online gives people the illusion that they are informed and have thought deeply about things. If this individual sloth is taken to the next level, they won't make any effort to analyse and question the information, they just take it at face value. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. Carl Jung. An abundance of intellectual laziness within society means that no one desires to think for themselves, and so society is at the mercy of the diligent few who elect to think for themselves and publish their thoughts. Society functions best when we rely on a wide variety of people contributing their own thoughts and opinions. This is what makes our culture rich. The moment this contribution stops is the moment our culture dies. This is my biggest issue with censorship and cancel culture in 2023. Suppressing, preventing, or neglecting your responsibility to independently think means that your voice will never be heard. That means that if there's a problem that only you can see, it will never be solved and nothing will ever change or improve. Intellectual laziness is also responsible for scientists producing inaccurate conclusions from experiments. Everyone should understand that correlation does not equal causation. In order to prove that a correlation is causal, you not only need to prove that A leads to B, but you also need to prove that not A leads to not B. The intellectual lazy neglect to apply and then reapply this scientific method of thinking to their experiments, which leads to inaccurate conclusions and misinformation. I have always been impressed by the fact that there are a surprising number of individuals who never use their minds if they can avoid it, and an equal number who do use their minds but in an amazingly stupid way. Carl Jung. Another issue with intellectual laziness is that you become a bot that is highly programmable and will do anything you are told, including permitting the evilest of acts to be committed. All of the evil done in 20th century Russia, Germany and Japan occurred because masses of people neglected to think independently for themselves and consider what they were doing was wrong. Problem number 3. Sloth causes you physical morbidity. Sedentary behaviour, such as excessive sleeping, sitting, reclining, or laying down for extended periods of time, is a risk factor for developing many chronic conditions and premature death. This is especially the case now that most full-time jobs consist of sitting all day in front of a table or a screen. Joints that don't move regularly become stiff and immobile. As you age, it's important to go against the trend of slowing down and increase your desire to be physically active. Problem number 4. Sloth causes you psychological morbidity. Many psychologists associate sloth with psychological health problems such as depression. This is probably part of the reason why the rise in depression has paralleled the increased level of comfort we feel in our lives. Depression is a first world problem, a disease of abundance. Many third world countries are too busy fighting for survival to experience the psychological ill effects of living comfortably. I argue that most of the reason the COVID-19 lockdowns caused such a mental health crisis was because people spent too much time doing nothing, which opened themselves up to the psychological ill health effects of sitting idle. Post-retirement depression is also another form of the psychological issues that emanate from sitting idle. Real men live to work. As Donald Trump puts it, to retire is to expire, and that's why you should always be working. Diligence, the virtue that opposes sloth, is the fastest way to cure your depression. Understand that as a man, your happiness is closely tied to your achievements, which means that the sloth that doesn't achieve only further negatively affects his mental health. Problem number 5. Sloth gives rise to temptation. Anyone inactive opens themselves up to all kinds of mischievous behaviour, which can cause destruction to you and others. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 27. Too much free time is the genesis of all the other 7 deadly sins mentioned in the previous 6 episodes. For example, having too much free time means that you'll eat more, gluttony. It also means that you'll seek sexual release, lust, and slothful tendencies permit more slothful tendencies to develop. Problem number 6. Sloth causes problems for society. Sloth compromises your ability to contribute positively to society. If everyone became a sloth, nothing would ever get done and nothing would ever improve. At the extreme, social security means that people can live entirely off the fruits of another's labour and bludge through life. If everyone were like this, then eventually there would be nothing to go around. Most of us are capable of sustaining ourselves, but rather than directing all of our excess time into non-productive and slothful activities, we should spend a large portion of this time giving back to others. In the same way that greed is the selfish desire to use excess money for individual pleasure, sloth is the selfish desire to use excess spare time for individual pleasure. The primary reason that we became the preeminent animal on the planet is because of our drive to continuously challenge ourselves and rise to those challenges. This drive has seen us come down from the trees, which led us to standing upright, which gave way to us developing better hunting skills. Through the controlled use of fire, we developed our neocortex and formed languages. This led to humans building structures, then automobiles, and then electronics. How are you going to contribute to what comes next? All of these inventions were created by people who elected to completely destroy the slothful tendency latent within. Remember from episode 89 that this has made and will continue to make the world a better place. If you aren't giving more than you take, then you are a burden to those who do. It's a man's responsibility to give more than he consumes. Sloth opposes this duty, and that's the biggest reason why this inclination is so destructive. The corresponding virtues that oppose sloth are diligence, effort, perseverance, and determination. Your duty is to apply this to yourself and your own responsibilities. Build up your skills to the point where you can fulfill your duty and serve others. Progress this skill set to the point where you can apply yourself at a higher level and serve your family and even your community. Finally, the pinnacle of the virtuous is to serve our generation. Every human has a role to play and a contribution to make. The best place to start is to start small. Help yourself by getting the basics right. Make your bed, drink enough water, eat healthy, brush your teeth, take the stairs and exercise, and take responsibility for your life. If you can't be bothered to improve your own life, then how can you begin to improve the lives of others? This is the importance of starting small. Slay the innate slothful tendency within you at the microscopic level to be able to satisfactorily progress to contributing to society at a macroscopic level. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 99, I'll be discussing why you must never deviate from your beliefs. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.